Let's go around.
Minneapolis was still reeling from Renee Good's death, who was shot and killed by a federal immigration officer over a brief war of words on January 7th. Since then, thousands of people braved the Arctic cold and sub-zero temperatures to protest against the Trump administration's handling of the immigration crackdown. But ratcheting up tensions in America's already shaken Twin Cities, on January 24th, a Border Patrol officer fatally shot and killed a man named Alex Pretti in Minneapolis. Alex Pretti was an ICU nurse at a VA hospital and worked for the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. The Department of Homeland Security said the man was shot after he approached Border Patrol officers while carrying a 9mm semi-automatic handgun. Officials did not say whether Pretti pointed or displayed the weapon, but DHS, in a long post on X, defended the officer and asserted that apparently, fearing for his life and the lives and safety of fellow officers, the federal agent fired defensive shots. However, in footage captured by bystanders and published soon after the incident, Pretti is shown holding a phone in his hand, and none of the clips appear to show him with a visible weapon. Watch the footage for yourself and decide whether the federal agent needed to fear for his life and the lives of his fellow officers.
Stop talking. They have just shot a man.
They shot that guy.
I know.
Oh my God.
They have shot a man.
Now, let's watch a video that shows the confrontation between Alex and ICE and Border Patrol officials that led up to the shooting.
Things got buried. Yeah, unroll your windows. No, they're gonna spray it inside the car. Let's go around.
Still not enough footage to decide whether the group of immigration officials was at risk while confronting Alex. Let's watch footage of the shooting from a different angle, and then watch it again in slow motion.
Honestly.
However, Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem stood by the federal agent who fatally shot Alex Pretti, saying the individual had violently brandished a gun while trying to disrupt the targeted arrest of a criminal migrant, and she placed blame on the state's Democratic leadership for the incident. She defended the shooting by saying the officer feared for his life and the lives of his fellow officers and fired the defensive shots.
Individual approached U.S. Border Patrol officers with a 9mm semi-automatic handgun. The officers attempted to disarm this individual, but the armed suspect reacted violently. Fearing for his life and for the lives of his fellow officers around him, an agent fired defensive shots. Medics were on the scene immediately and attempted to deliver medical aid to the subject, but he was pronounced dead at the scene. The suspect also had 2 magazines with ammunition in them that held dozens of rounds. He also had no ID. This looks like a situation where an individual arrived at this scene to inflict maximum damage on individuals and to kill law enforcement. About hundreds of protesters then showed up at the scene. They began to obstruct and to assault law enforcement officers. We saw objects being thrown at them, including ice and other objects, and a rampant assault began, and even an HSI officer agent's finger was bitten off. Crowd control measures were deployed to bring safety to the public and to law enforcement at the scene. And once again, I want to remind everybody that this situation and this tragedy did not have to happen. Our law enforcement are doing everything that they can to protect the public. We're praying for this deceased loved one's family and friends, but we also recognize that the Minnesota governor and the Minneapolis mayor need to take a long, hard look in the mirror. They need to evaluate their rhetoric, their conversations, and their encouragement of such violence against our citizens and our law enforcement officers. I'll remind you that Governor Walz today in his press conference said that our officers were not even law enforcement, which is a lie. He's called them the Gestapo. He's encouraged residents and citizens and violent rioters to resist. He's doxed their identities, putting themselves and their families' lives in jeopardy. He's refused to turn over murderers to federal law enforcement officers. He's protected illegal criminals and protected them from being brought to justice, and even overseen a historic, unprecedented theft of American taxpayer dollars. Tens of billions of dollars were stolen under his watch, and he allowed it to happen, and in some instances may have even facilitated it.
Border Patrol Commander Gregory Bovino held a separate press conference to justify the shooting and killing of the Minneapolis man, and repeated that an officer discharged defensive shots after the man carrying a handgun moved toward agents and violently resisted efforts to take the weapon away.
And at no point do we see Alex Pretti brandishing a weapon. DHS Secretary Kristi Noem said that he was brandishing a weapon, and in the video we see him on the ground with his hands on his head. We see an officer leaving what it appears to be with the weapon after he extracted it from Pretti's waist area. Did the officers see the weapon? Did they see him brandishing the weapon at him?
Sure. Many videos out there, many different accounts that you may see, that I may see, that anybody here may see. That, folks, is why we have something called an investigation, to take what you're talking about, to take those videos, to take witness statements, to take officer statements, all those minute details that will paint a true picture, not a freeze frame concept, and paint a larger picture of what really happened. That is why we investigate, so we can get to the truth, so there's not speculation. Speculation after 24 hours, you've got a lot of speculation in there. That officer, let's think of what those agents were doing on that scene, making a split-second decision. You've had 24 hours to try and armchair quarterback things. That agent had a split second to make a decision.
Commander Rubino, between your agency, Commander Rubino.
It's not speculation.
And then right here.
Commander, was Alex Pretti armed when he was shot?
Again, the investigation is going to uncover all those facts, things like how many shots were fired, where were the weapons located. All those facts are going to come out in the investigation. I wasn't there wrestling that assaultive subject that was assaulting Border Patrol agents. I wasn't there wrestling him myself, so I'm not going to speculate. I'm going to wait for that investigation to come. No, don't interrupt me. I'm going to wait till that investigation comes out until I make a decision there.
If there's an investigation going on and you have not concluded, isn't it possible this was a bad shooting? Or have you already concluded for yourself that this was justified?
I've not concluded anything. I've not given you a conclusion. But what I do know is this individual was on that scene several minutes before that shooting, interfering with a lawful, legal, ethical law enforcement operation to arrest Jose Huerta Chuma. And again, it's back to choices. We just talked about choices. When someone makes the choice to come into an active law enforcement scene, interfere, obstruct, delay, or assault law enforcement officers, and they bring a weapon to do that, that is a choice that individual made.
Commander Bovino, when it comes to the shooting, from what I understand, there were 2 agents who fired shots. We know one of the agents had 8 years experience, and we know he was a less lethal instructor and had this training. What did the other agent, what was his history, and are they both working right now, or are they on administrative leave?
All agents that were involved in that scene are working, not in Minneapolis, but in other locations. That's for their safety. There's this thing called doxing, and the safety of our employees is very important to us. So we're going to keep those employees safe. As far as the number of shots, the number of agents involved, that again is going to come out in the investigation. I'm not going to speculate on who did what, when they did it, how they did it, or what exactly occurred there. I'm going to wait for the investigation to let me know what happened.
He did have 8 years experience, so we are talking about one of the agents. Why not talk about the other who shot as well? Because
before those facts come out, we need to ensure that we're talking truthfully and accurately. And before I speculate, I'm going to talk truthfully and accurately.
Between your agency, Border Patrol, and Mr. Charles, your agency, ICE, we've now seen 2 separate people shot and killed by your officers within 17 days. Do either of you plan on taking any accountability for those actions?
2 suspects, or you're correct, 2 suspects have been shot, and suspects that assault, delay, obstruct, or threaten a law enforcement officer's life. It goes back to the choices that we just talked about. When individuals make poor choices, poor decisions, come into a law enforcement situation, an active law enforcement situation, conspire to come into that situation, whether that's based on ideology, we don't know. That'll be in the investigation that we just talked about. That's what we base the split-second decisions on, and our law enforcement officers are safe. They managed to come home at the end of shift. And, again, I would implore upon any individuals, whether they're anarchists, rioters, or anyone else that thinks it wise to go into a law enforcement scene to disrupt, to delay, is to don't do that. Let's think about that in terms, say a bank robbery is in progress and the police are taking care of that, and then you decide to go in there and perhaps take action. That's not a good idea in any form or fashion. The same thing with Title VIII. Same thing with Title VIII enforcement. We are after an individual with a very serious criminal record. We don't need any help.